Part 13. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 121. The bloody fighting was over, but Saber, standing alone on the street, seemed to have lost her soul. There were still stabbing pains in the wrist of his left hand. For the first time, this proud sword hero discovered that he was so weak and fragile. There was nothing she could do, nothing she could do. Whether it is maintaining a good relationship with his master, or saving those children, and giving divine sanctions to evil servants. She couldn't do any of this. Even in an embarrassing situation, he still needs the help of the master who is supposed to be his enemy. The famous King Arthur, is actually such an incompetent person. This is really ironic. Saber thought this and smiled bitterly. Just when she was about to go there in despair, there was a throbbing in her soul. Its master, is he in danger? Feeling the urgency and sense of crisis coming from the contract, Saber instantly abandoned her unnecessary thoughts and turned around to rush towards the Matu family. With an agility attribute of A, it can be said that Saber is no slower than assassin. When she realized that her master was in critical condition, Saber quickly rushed to the scene of the incident. It was an open space not far from Matu's house, where Saber saw a familiar man holding red and yellow spears. "Lancer, why are you here?" Saber stared at Lancer in surprise. He was holding his master Kenneth, who was covered in blood and seemed to be still alive or dead. "My mater was too careless in this attack." Saber's master, "You should thank your servant, otherwise I wouldn't just be here watching you, but would have pierced your body long ago." Seeing Saber's arrival, Lancer nodded to her. Originally, Lancer went to the battlefield to deal with Castor under the instructions of his master. What he didn't expect was that Castor was beaten away so quickly. Before he could materialize and say hello to Saber, his master suddenly died. Lancer rushed over in a panic and saw Kenneth lying on the ground. Emi Yakiritsugu was pointing a pistol at him. The scene where the other party looked like this. What happened next was what Saber saw when he came over. In response to Lancer's chivalry, Saber nodded slightly to express her gratitude. "Next time we meet, I hope I can fight you openly and honestly, Saber. And never forget it. The reason why you can survive now is all because of the nobility of the King of Knights." Lancer told Kiritsugu with cold sarcasm in his words, and then left the clearing with Kenneth in his arms. Kiritsugu stood here with a blank look on his face. For a moment, he even had the urge to force Saber to use the command seal to kill Lancer's master, but in the end he suppressed this urge. Not to mention Saber's resistance to magic, what is the chance of this order being successful, and Saber's moment of hesitation was enough for Lancer to choose to kill him. Kiritsugu was suitably dazed and lit the cigarette in his mouth. Sure enough, he should choose his servant more carefully. Only now did Kiritsugu feel the pain of failure in this matter, while sighing and exhaling purple smoke. Then, as usual, Emi Yakiritsugu turned around and returned to the Matu family's ancestral home without even looking at the servant beside him. Saber's fingers holding the sword turned white. The girl seemed to want to say something, but in the end she chose silence, turned around and followed the other person away silently. The battle on the second night ended somewhat anticlimactically. There were 3 servants in total, but it made the already complicated situation even more complicated. The crazy servant who was supposed to be Berserker left a question in everyone through tonight's battle. This uses grimoires. Is the servant who summons monsters to fight really just a Berserker? Regarding this point, yeah, you did not expect it at first, so the form has changed again. Knowing that Flandra is probably just an unintentional Berserker, the possibility of encountering a surprise attack from an enemy servant greatly increases. Although Flandra was not as innocent as Berserker, they were still passive. Yeah, you thought about this on the way back to Einsborn Castle. At this time, why are there still children here? Suddenly, Iris Veal beside him said this. Yeah, you was slightly startled and turned back to look at his wife. Where are the children? Because the murderer of the horrific serial murders that occurred in Fuiaki City has not yet been brought to justice. Although the police have repeatedly comforted the people, the entire Fuiaki City is still shrouded in huge panic. So although it's not too late now, it's already quiet and there's not a single person in sight on the street. It is obviously unreasonable to have children running around in the streets at this time. We're heading in that direction. Do you want to follow us and take a look? Iris Veal asked. Yeah, you nodded slightly, and the three of them walked towards the direction pointed by Iris Veal. Iris Veal was not mistaken. The person still wandering on the street at this time was indeed a child. And this child is also someone whom Yayu is familiar with. She is Tosaka-rin, the former sister of Sakura Tosaka. Tosaka-rin is very clear about what Fuiaki City means at night. 7 magicians, including the father, are at war. Deadly and bizarre threats lurk in the streets at night. Because she knew a certain truth, Rin felt an even greater sense of responsibility. Today, my friend Chinyin didn't come to school. The head teacher said she was homesick, but that was not the case in the class rumors. Even if Rin called her home, her parents would not pay attention to Rin. The child abduction incidents that have occurred one after another in Fuiaki City cannot be solved through simple search activities. Even if the police are called, it will be difficult for the child to come back. The teachers at school, Koton's relatives and friends must not realize this, only Rin does. Koton has always trusted Rin. Whether it was when she was bullied by the boys in her class or when the librarian forced her to give her a job, Rin would always step in to help her. It is a pride for Rin to be so trusted and respected by his classmates. Always be classy, every time you help her is a good opportunity for Rin to practice her family's teachings. Now, Koton must also be waiting for Rin to save her. With this idea in mind, Tosaka-rin slipped out of his home alone, and in this late night, embarked on the road to search for his good friend. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 122. The night air in Fuiaki has been missing for a long time, and the cold winter breath is just the right amount to cool down the burning skin. Rin innocently thought that it would be great if she could find Koton before the last train. But then there are only 2 hours left, which is totally not enough time. It's so quiet. At this moment, Rin was walking alone on the wide streets of Fuiaki City. What should have been a bustling night market was actually as quiet as death. Anyway, investigate Zindu first. If you go to Miyama Town, the magic pointer will keep pointing to Tosaka residence, and if you go there, you will probably be discovered by your father. After opening the magic pointer cover, Rin was confused by the pointer's reaction. What's going on? The needle that usually only shook slightly was now spinning rapidly. It was the first time she had seen this phenomenon. The needle behaved like a small animal, which cast a shadow over Rin's heart. Looking down at the magic pointer in her hand, Rin gasped. The pointer is motionless. It points to the direction of the sound as if frozen. There is something there, something emitting strange magic. Isn't this what you want to find? What a great start to find the clue so quickly. Rin plans to search all the suspicious places in Zindu and confirm the location of Koton one by one. And the first place here has already been found by myself. Okay, then go up and see what's there. When Tosaka-rin discovered something, Yayu and others who were following the girl also discovered something. What a coincidence. I thought I let you escape. Feeling the familiar magic power fluctuations in the air, Yayu slowly narrowed his eyes and showed a cold smile. Is it Castor? Iris Veal, who also felt the strange magic power fluctuation, asked. Yes, it's Castor's magic power. Yayu nodded and followed Tosaka-rin in front into the dark basement. Dark, 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 this is what Rin saw before her eyes. Faintly, Rin seemed to hear the sound of crying. The voice sounded so familiar, Some terrifying images flashed through his mind, and Rin continued to look down at the compass in his hand. The pointer was fixed, pointing straight into the depths of the pitch-black basement. The speakeasy, however, looks abandoned, waiting for its next owner to develop it. Hiss, hiss, a strange sound sounded, like a snake crawling, and Rin felt a chill coming over him. "Koton, are you there?" Gathering up her courage, Rin shouted, and her childish voice seemed to spread far away in the darkness. "No, no, no, absolutely no, no." There was the breathing of something from deep in the corridor, as if there was a breath coming to my face. There were cries, and there were weak moans and groans that sounded like death. There is also a strong smell of blood. There is no sound of piano in the depths of darkness. Even if she was inside, she probably wouldn't be the same voice as before. If she really wanted to find something today, maybe Rin's target should not be Koton but her body. Don't want. When everything in the darkness was revealed in front of Rin, she couldn't help but screamed in fright. "Oh my, there is such a cute little girl coming to me," a very proud voice sounded in the darkness. It seemed that the man in the darkness had just tortured and killed a little girl, which gave this man in the darkness a great sense of satisfaction. In Rin's eyes, Koton's body was lying quietly on the bar counter. The blood was flowing like it was free of charge. The small body was torn open, and something was wrapped around and stained on the face. Blood stains on man's hands. Ugh. Vomiting and crying. "Oh, little girl, I just wanted to try using my intestines or something to play with the rope. It's very interesting. Do you want to play with me?" With a twisted smile on the man's face, he inserted himself into the girl. The sharp knife was drawn out. Maybe he wasn't dead yet. His little body twitched, and his bulging pale eyes looked at Rin. Ah! A strange purple light flashed, and in the man's surprised eyes, a torrent of magic rushed towards him. "TCH, what is this?" The device on his wrist that was given by his servant Castor to seduce children flashed with light, but the man was still knocked to the ground by this sudden attack. Run! This was the only thought in Rin's mind. Almost without thinking, she turned around and ran towards the stairs. Really, it wouldn't be fun if the little girl ran away, but she would be eaten. A man's lazy voice came from behind. The pointer of the compass in her hand spun violently, and a torrent of magic instantly enveloped the little girl's body. This feeling is the feeling of inescapable, incapable of thinking, just pure and hopeless death. At that time, the young Rin realized the nature of magic through this experience. He couldn't move his whole body and couldn't even scream. The unbearable terror is enough to crush such a young girl. A strange tinnitus began to ring in her ears, and Rin thought it was caused by the cold despair that pressed in her heart. My own thinking is starting to destroy my five senses. Then there was the sound of something being frozen and then broken, and Rin felt a warm embrace hugging him, like a father. "Are you okay?" A gentle voice rang in Rin's ears. Inexplicably, Rin Tozaka felt that the voice was familiar. He raised his head and saw a familiar face. Is it you?" Naturally, the girl will not forget the way she is holding her man in her arms at this moment. He was the one who took her sister Sakura away from her that day. Although he knew that this was his father's order, and this man was much more comfortable than the old man, Rin still had some grudges in his heart. If it weren't for him, Sakura wouldn't leave her side. Yes, by the way, this man is also a participant in the Holy Grail War. Does that mean he is my father's enemy? Tosaka Rin thought so, and the fear in her heart at first disappeared. The girl didn't know what was going on, but she felt very at ease in this man's arms. On the other side, Castor's master looked very unhappy when he discovered that the man who suddenly appeared had taken away his prey. He raised his eyebrows and looked at the uninvited guest standing at the top of the stairs, and spoke casually. "Where do you come from? How dare you disturb Ryunosuke-sama from having fun?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Shang. Chapter 123. If there is anyone who is a real madman, Ryunoshukuya should be like this. The most frightening thing is that such crazy people don't know that such behavior is crazy, but think that it is a natural behavior. A happy murderer, this is probably the best description and evaluation of Ryunoshukuya. Ryunosukubu has no interest in the Holy Grail and did not even know about its existence before summoning Castor. However, the Yasheng family has the blood of magicians, and Yasheng Longji unexpectedly found the documents for summoning demons in the warehouse, and tried to draw the magic circle during the home invasion and murder, and finally summoned it for the 4th time. Castor. Therefore, it can be said that his participation in the Holy Grail War was a complete accident. Before summoning Castor, he had already killed 42 people. After summoning Castor, he relied on Castor's help to kill more happily. Although Ryunosuke doesn't understand the meaning of the Holy Grail War, he has undoubtedly fallen in love with this death game. After seeing the power of Castor, Ryunosuke had the illusion that he was invincible. With such a powerful servant to protect you, you don't have to worry. You can kill casually and happily every day. It's really great. Ryunosuke had no idea what the Holy Grail War meant, nor did he know what the combination of the other masters and servants meant. He didn't even know what kind of person the man standing in front of him at this moment was. He only thought that this was a nosy guy who ruined his own good things. He had encountered many such guys before, and then they were all killed by him without exception. If you interfere with my good deeds, just go to hell. Ryunosuke shouted, raising the sharp knife in his hand. But before he could swing the knife in his hand, Ryunosuke felt a stinging pain. Ryunosuke lowered his head in confusion, but found a small girl standing on his chest. The girl's appearance was hard to see clearly in the darkness. The only thing that could clearly be seen in Ryunosuke's eyes was the slowly flapping wings dotted with colorful prisms behind the girl, as well as a pair of blood-red wings. Such a beautiful, such a cute child. It would definitely feel good to torture her to death, right? Ryunosuke thought this in his mind, and soon he felt a sweet smell coming from his mouth, and bright red blood slowly slid down his lips. What's going on? Am I actually vomiting blood? Why am I vomiting blood? Ryunosuke thought this in a daze, and Flandre slowly pulled her palm back. There was a devilish smile on the girl's face, and her beating heart was squeezed tightly by her. In the palm of your hand. It's so fragile, just one click, and it's ruined. There seems to be nothing wrong with the berserker class now. Silently looking at Flandre standing in the darkness with a distorted face, Iris Veal leaned towards Yayu with some fear. Tosaka-ren was also held in Yayu's arms, preventing the curious girl from looking back to see what happened. But maybe a scene like this is nothing to her anymore, right? After all, where is the eldest daughter of the Tosaka family? Ordinary children would have been frightened when they saw this scene, right? Yayu gently stroked Tosaka-ren's head. Although the underground bar was dark, through the strong smell of blood, Yayu knew very well what happened here. They all have to die, both this Castor and his master have to die. They must pay for what they have done. Kill him, Fran. Without the slightest hesitation, Yayu spoke, giving orders to Flandre for the first time as master. As you wish. The girl with a sweet smile raised her palm high and immediately crushed the heart in her palm to pieces. The expression on Ryunosuke's face, who hadn't figured out what happened, froze for a moment, and then slowly fell down. To the end of his life, he still didn't understand what the girl who suddenly appeared did to him. But at least in the end, Ryunosuke realized that he was going to die. He didn't want to die. He finally had the opportunity to kill human beings at will, and he didn't want to lose it so easily. Perhaps at this moment, a normal human being can be distinguished from a murderer. Ryonishuk's heart was indeed crushed. An ordinary person would definitely die from such an injury. But for servants, especially Castor who is good at magic, such injuries are not considered fatal. As long as the right measures are taken in time, there is still a possibility of rescue. Especially having an incredible spell like the command seal will make the rescue more successful. When Ryonishuk was about to fall, the torrent of magic power was like a rushing flood, instantly protecting Ryonishuk among them, and a man wearing a white cloak slowly appeared. "What's wrong? What happened?" "My master, who is going to attack you next time." With eyes as wide as a frog's, Castor hugged the dying Ryonishuk and let out a cry. "We meet again, Castor, you are finally willing to show up." A voice with a heavy sigh slowly sounded in the darkness. Castor couldn't help but feel excited and raised his head to look in the direction from which the familiar voice came. It's you. It's you." That hateful face slowly emerged, and Castor roared with gnashing teeth. It was because of this man's obstruction that he failed to bring back his beloved Jeanne d'Arc. "You just stopped me, and now you've hurt my dear Ryonishuk. What on earth are you going to do? What are you going to do? Damn it! Damn it, you deserve to die 100, 1,000, 10,000 times, guy." Castor yelled like a madman, while Yayu laughed softly. "Do you want to kill me? Okay, then kill me." The moment Yayu finished speaking, Castor was keenly aware of an extremely dangerous aura. He quickly reacted and rolled to the side while holding Ryonishuk's body in his arms. The space where he and Ryonishuk were originally was completely distorted, as if they had been forcibly separated from the world. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai. Chapter 124. Yahui was so cautious in this Holy Grail war not because his servant was not as strong as others. On the contrary, Flandra's attributes are excellent, comparable to Saber and Berserker's previous records. However, although Berserker's attributes are indeed relatively powerful, the side effect is losing his mind, but Flandra is not like this. She has a clear mind and can analyze the situation as well as Yayu do. Of course, through the girl's behavior just now, Yayu also discovered her crazy side as a berserker, but fortunately, this madness did not reach the point of getting out of control. In other words, this kind of madness can actually enhance Fran's combat effectiveness in battle, which is a good thing. Seeing Flandro alone intimidating Castor with her overwhelming momentum, Yayu recalled Flandro's attributes again. Class, Berserker. Master, Yayu. Real name, Flandra Scarlet. Attribute, Chaos Evil. Ability values, Strength B/Durability B/Agility A++/Magic A/Lucky S/Noble Phantasm X. Possess skills. Calm Madness, the madness on the outside but the calmness on the inside can greatly improve combat effectiveness depending on the level. Divinity, although he is a cursed vampire, he mysteriously possesses a little divinity. Blood-sucking, the strength and vitality can be quickly restored through the supply of blood. The recovery effect increases with the strength of the blood-sucking party. Madness, Berserker's unique skill, the effect is unknown. Noble Phantasm. Eyes of Destruction. Grade, A. Type, Anti-Personnel Noble Phantasm. Attack distance, within sight. Maximum capture, as far as the eye can see. The power that twists the rules and destroys everything that appears in the eyes. Staff of Disaster Valian. Grade, A. Type, Anti-Realm Noble Phantasm. Attack distance, 199. Maximum capture, 1000 people. Set off a disaster that destroys the world and usher in the dusk of the gods. Flame Demonic Sword Valian. Level, X. Type, Opposing Noble Phantasm. Attack distance, 199. Maximum capture, 1000 people. The demonic sword that destroys the world wields the fire of disaster and burns everything. What is Valian? You, who has some knowledge of this world, is no stranger to it. It is a very famous weapon in Nordic mythology. It was originally a holy sword that represented hope, but it eventually turned into despair for unknown reasons. At the end of the Twilight of the Gods battle, this sword burned the entire world and then disappeared without a trace. But why did Valentine summon Flandra? This name obviously does not exist in Norse mythology. You still can't understand this, but it seems to be because Flandra does not belong to this world and is an imaginary heroic spirit, right? Maybe there is also a magic sword named Valentine in other worlds, and it belongs to Flandra, right? Flandra just used her first noble phantasm, Eye of Destruction. This is an ability that seems incredible to Yayu, because it is really unreasonable. However, it seems that this ability is still greatly limited, and it is not as incredible as its literal description. Otherwise, Castor might have been crushed to death by Fran just now. But even if this noble phantasm is weakened, it is still an extremely powerful A-level noble phantasm. I dodged it, but it won't be so easy next time. With an innocent smile like a girl, Flandra said this to Ryonishuk and Castor, and then slowly raised her palm again. Castor's eyes widened, showing an extremely frightened look. This time he failed to dodge Fran's attack, and his entire left shoulder was torn off bloody. It's not that Castor doesn't want to hide, it's that he simply can't. At first it seemed like the girl was just playing tricks on her prey, but now, the moment he was targeted by Fran, Castor realized that there was nothing he could do. Something that belongs to me falls into the hands of this little girl, and all she needs to do is squeeze it gently. The eyes mentioned by the Eye of Destruction do not represent eyes, but objects called eyes. Every object has a purpose, and destroying this purpose can directly destroy the object. The ability of Flandra's noble phantasm is actually the ability to focus the eye of an object into the palm of one's hand, and then just crush the eye into pieces. It seems that this is an almost unsolvable and powerful ability, but in fact it still has great limitations. Because even if you master the opponent's purpose, this purpose is still linked to the opponent's strength. If your own strength is not matched, you still cannot destroy it. Although Flandra's strength attribute is not the highest, it is slightly worse than B, but even so, it is still an overwhelming advantage for Castor, whose strength is only D and durability is E. Therefore, it is really easy to tear the fragile Castor into pieces. However, this move is slightly inferior to Saber and Rider, whose strength and durability are equal to hers or even higher. Moreover, protective noble phantasms also have a great impact. Flandra's move is not invincible against servants, but the most invincible is actually against the master. With this move, Fran can easily and silently kill any master who appears in front of her, and the opponent has no way to defend himself. Especially Rider, who likes to lead his master into battle, but you would not do such a despicable thing. He does desire to win, but he also has his own bottom line. For example, the determination to kill Castor no matter what was precisely because he touched Yayu's bottom line. Okay, stop teasing and give him a good time, Fran. Understood, my master. Flandra, who had torn both of Castor's shoulders off, showed a bloodthirsty smile. Then the girl turned slightly in a circle and slowly spread her hands. The hot breath spread from the dark underground space, and a short scepter appeared in Flandra's palm. The Staff of Disaster Valentine, this forbidden weapon that once brought Ragnarok, completely showed its ferocious side in the hands of Flandra, appearing in this world in its complete form for the first time. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 125. The flames burned, illuminating the underground bar. Castor, who had lost his arms, stared blankly at Flandra holding the flaming staff of disaster high. He was mumbling to himself without knowing what he was talking about. He seemed to have given up on resisting and allowed Flandre to bring the world-destroying flames to him. What a beautiful flame, God, is this your punishment for me? Is it right for me to die in such a beautiful flame like Joan of Arc? The figures of Castor and Rionishuk were enveloped in flames, and the entire underground bar burst into flames, burning all the blood and dirt. Yayu looked at everything that happened in front of him with an indifferent expression, and Tosakurin also turned around, crying slowly while looking at the dancing flames. The sound of the piano. Like a little beast that had lost its mother, a sobbing sound came from Tosakurin's throat, and the girl cried for her companion who died in vain. If she could have been earlier, if she could have been stronger, Kinyan would not have died. Stop crying, this is none of your business. Not knowing what happened, Yayu simply thought that the girl was crying for the children who died in vain. He gently touched the girl's head and said so. Tosakurin did not answer, the girl just wiped her tears and remained silent. She is the heir to the Tozaka family, and maintaining elegance and composure at all times is the family motto her father has always conveyed to her. Now that the matter has come to this, there is no point in shedding any more tears. At least Chinyan's revenge has been avenged. Thanks. Lowering her head, the girl spoke softly to Yayu. Why are you thanking me? I just did what I should do. This is the Holy Grail War. It is inevitable for me to defeat the master and servant who are hostile to me. Thank you anyway, Sakura, is she okay? Tosakurin muttered, and the girl showed a timid look on her face, and then she asked about her sister tremblingly. She really missed Sakura and wanted to see her sister again. But in the year since Sakura left, she has not mentioned Sakura's name once. Because she didn't want to make her father angry, let alone her mother sad, as the heir to the Tosaka family, she had to be strong. Don't worry, Sakura is fine. She is in Einsborn. My daughter gets along well with her, and the two children will not be lonely together. Is this, like this? It's really good. Tosakurin nodded gently, letting go of the worries in his heart. Did Sakura mention me? Yes, Sakura also misses her sister very much, but because she is coming to Fuyuki City to participate in the Holy Grail War this time, it is very dangerous, so she cannot be brought here. Yayu said this regretfully, and Tosakurin nodded in understanding. When this war is over, I will bring Sakura to see you. No. There is no need. Sakura has her own life. She is no longer a child of the Tosaka family, but a child of your Einsborn family. To Yayu's surprise, Tosakurin, a little girl who looked less than 10 years old, stared at him very hard and said such words. He obviously showed a strong longing for his sister not long ago, but has he adjusted so quickly? Is this what you want to see, what you expect, Toki Tozaka? Stifling their children's emotions and placing extremely heavy shackles on their backs. Maybe Tosaka Toki has already made up his mind? The Holy Grail War is not a child's play, even he was prepared to die before participating in this war. No one dares to say that they can win in the end, not even Yayu. Let's go, I'll take you home first. The extra thought stopped abruptly, and Yayu lowered his head and spoke softly to the girl in his arms. Tosaka Aoi discovered her daughter was missing an hour later. Perhaps because she was afraid of being scolded by her mother, the child placed a note beside her bed saying that she was going to find her classmate Chinyin who was missing. Aoi immediately regretted it. During dinner, Rin mentioned Koton and asked Aoi about Fuyuki's current situation. Aoi ran out of Shanchin's house in her home clothes and drove speeding on the national highway at night. Since we don't know where Rin went, we can only guess the scope of her actions, and then look for places where she might go one by one. If you want to take a train starting from home, the first place you go to is Fuyuki Station in Shinto, and then you walk for 30 minutes on your child's feet. The approximate range is. The first thing Aoi thought of was the Citizens Park by the river. Aoi glanced at the bench where she usually sat when she brought Rin to play. This could only be said to be a feeling out of thin air. However, the little figure wearing a red coat that he was looking for was not there. Aoi sat down on the bench in despair. This beautiful young woman who still retained her charm covered her face with her hands and cried extremely sadly. A series of footsteps suddenly sounded in the park late at night, and Aoi was slightly startled. Before she could raise her head, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice slowly rang out. "This girl suddenly fell asleep. I don't know where to take her, but it seems like I've come here right now, Miss Aoi." Standing in front of him was a man wearing a slender windbreaker. His slightly cold face had no expression, and also revealed a bit of vicissitudes of life. But none of this matters. What matters is the person held in the man's arms. Cold. Quay screamed and rushed over, while Yayu raised his fingers and made a silent gesture. "Be quiet, she's asleep." Thank you." "I really don't know how to thank you, Mr. Yayu." Aoi, whose mind was filled with joy, finally calmed down. She lowered her voice and took her daughter from Yayu with trembling hands. "It doesn't have to be like this. Children are innocent. The war has nothing to do with children." As Yayu said this, Quay's body became a little stiff. Then she remembered that the man in front of her was a participant in the Holy Grail War on behalf of Einsborn. In other words, he was her husband's enemy. "Mr. Yayu, do you also desire the Holy Grail so much?" "Yes, I have a reason why I have to get the Holy Grail." Yayu nodded gently. Quay's expression was a little complicated, and she didn't know what to say. She had been feeling very restless these past few days, always feeling like something was going to happen. Please ask him to let go of time, to protect time? How is it possible? This is the Holy Grail War, a life or death Holy Grail War in which there can only be one winner. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Shang. Chapter 126. Yeah, you knew what Quay wanted to say, but yeah, you did not give the other party a clear answer. At this point, the words that he didn't say he wouldn't kill Tokitatsu Tosaka already seemed meaningless. He could only ensure that he would not do anything to Tosaka Shiki if he had no murderous intention towards him. If Tosaka Tokitatsu harbors threats or thoughts of killing himself, then yeah, you cannot be blamed for being ruthless. Flandra had already taken the lead in sending Iris Veal back to Einsborn's villa. Walking alone in Fuyuki City in the night, Yayu raised his head and took a deep breath of the cold air. He had no goals and didn't know where to go. He just walked aimlessly. The first servant retired, and he was the servant with a bounty on his head. After defeating him, he would be rewarded with a command spell, but this was not a good thing in Yayu's eyes. Perhaps because of his impulsiveness, he and Flandra became the target of public criticism. I'm afraid everyone will know that Flandra is the real berserker, right? He scratched his head with a headache. His actions tonight were indeed a bit impulsive, but yeah, you didn't regret it. If Castor exists in this world for just one more second, he will be a huge threat to innocent people and children. But if you get the fourth command seal like this, you will definitely be treated as a powerful enemy, right? Looking at the brand engraved on the back of his hand, Yayu showed a helpless smile. Although the effect of the command spell sounded very powerful, Yayu expressed doubts about it, and he would not give any forced orders to Flandra. No matter what, Flandra is a very cute girl, about the same age as Ilya and Yaying. Although her true identity is a vampire, or a vampire who has lived for who knows how many years, Yayu can feel her side as a pure and innocent child. Flandra's essence is just a child who is afraid of loneliness. Unknowingly, it seemed that the direction he was walking was getting further and further away from Einsborn's villa. Yayu touched his head, shook his head in amusement and planned to go back. If he kept wandering like this, Alice Faye, I will worry about myself. Well, when did you come here? He was slightly startled, looking back casually. Yeah, you said softly to the deserted street. Didn't I ask you to protect Irisville's safety? Seeing Flandal running out to look for him, yeah, you frowned in displeasure, scolding her. The latter lowered his head in embarrassment and twirled his fingers. Forget it, there shouldn't be anything going on at this time. Please come with me for a walk. Fran, seeing the pitiful gesture of the girl lowering her head to admit her mistake, Yayu shook his head in amusement. He looked up at the night sky, and then continued, go ahead. Flandra didn't say anything, she just followed Niven more silently. In the darkness, several assassins walked silently, rushing to report everything they found to Koto Mine Kaire. Has Tozaka Tokiomi's daughter been rescued? Berserker has withdrawn. Koto Mine Kaire couldn't help but be shocked when he heard the report from his servant. The encirclement and suppression of Berserker was specially prepared for Tozaka Toki. The purpose was to give the command seal to Tozaka Toki for a well-known and justifiable reason. Unexpectedly, someone was able to get there first. Koto Mine Kaire sat back down again with a headache, looking at the intelligence information in front of him in a daze. Wait a minute, if it's what you described, this berserker is not a real berserker. Thinking about what his assassins said, Koto Mine Kaire rubbed his chin and started thinking. The little girl named Flandra is caster, so isn't it natural that the last servant is berserker? Everyone fell into a fixed mindset and ignored a crucial thing, that is, Flandra may have hidden her identity, but she was actually the real berserker. What should we do now? Please make a decision, master. Assassin asked on the side. Koto Mine Kaire thought for a moment and then slowly spoke. The original plan remains unchanged, to strengthen surveillance of caster, no, berserker's master. When Kaire Koto Mine said this, the assassin was slightly startled, not understanding what his master was talking about. Haven't berserker and his master been dealt with? We were all deceived. That little girl is the real berserker. It should be caster who exits. Is that so? I understand. We will step up surveillance on the real berserker and her master. Assassin said this and retreated step by step into the darkness. Although he complied, none of the assassins could figure out what role this kind of surveillance could play in the Holy Grail War. Since yesterday, Master Kaire added a strange condition to his order. That is, the assassins who monitor the 5 hostile masters are required to carefully observe the master's private life, hobbies, appearance, etc., and report them. Therefore, the surveillance density of the assassins currently scattered throughout Fuyuki must be greatly strengthened. In the darkness of this night, Hassan must be hiding everywhere to monitor the master's intentions. In short, since it is an order, you must obey it. Although it is troublesome, it is not difficult, so there is nothing to refute. Assassin ran in the night and continued to track Yayu. Originally, I thought that in this Holy Grail War, there was only one Emi Yakiritsugu that interested me, but I didn't expect that you would appear again. After Assassin left, Koto Mine Kaire, who was in a daze looking at Yayu's photo in the room, started talking to himself. Why are you longing for the Holy Grail, and can I get the answer from you? The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 127. By the lake shrouded in thick fog, there was a dark red mansion that exuded a somewhat depressing atmosphere. Whose residence it is unknown, but just looking at it from a distance, this mansion exudes a desperate and breathless atmosphere. From the outside, it looks like a mansion with an area of hundreds of square meters, but when you walk in, you find that it is much larger than that. The interior space of the mansion seems to be endless, and the long corridor has no end. Not only is there not a single maid in such a huge mansion, but although there are no maids, the hygiene is maintained very well. The corridors and window sills are very clean without a trace of dust. As you requested, tonight's dinner will be cheesecake and Ceylon black tea, Miss. In the empty auditorium, there was a long round table. In the dim candlelight, a girl dressed in a maid uniform spoke so respectfully to the girl sitting at the head of the round table. "Thank you for your hard work, Sakia." The girl, who crossed her hands and seemed to be playing with her bright red nails, nodded slightly and then raised her head. How is Fran today?" "The second young lady is very well behaved. She didn't make any noise or make a fuss." "That's good, send Fran's share as well." The girl, who was called the eldest lady and seemed to be the owner of this mansion, said so. The maid named Sakia bowed slightly, took a few steps back, and then seemed to blend into the ink in the darkness. Disappear. "Fran, she is Fran's sister?" After passing through a wonderful dream, Yayu woke up from a deep sleep. What he saw and experienced was not his own memory, but he didn't find it strange. A master who has signed a contract with a servant can sometimes peek into the memories of heroic spirits in the form of dreams. For Yayu, he didn't know much about the deeds of Flandra, a heroic spirit, but through her words, he knew that Flandra had a sister. But the relationship between this older sister and younger sister doesn't seem to be very friendly. "It's obviously a dinner party, but my younger sister can't be seen attending." Through the conversation between the master and the servant, it seems that Fran is imprisoned somewhere. And it can also be seen that the Scarlet family does not seem to be very glorious. There are only 2 masters, servants, and 1 maid in the entire mansion. "Hasn't it been a long time since you felt awake?" Yayu muttered these words to himself, and then he felt the bitterness hidden behind the words the girl said with a smile. "It seems that the sky has just dawned, and next to me is my wife's peaceful sleeping face." Yayu smiled softly and carefully helped Iris Veal smooth out her hair at the temples. He couldn't remember much about what happened last night. He only remembered that he and Fran wandered on the streets of Fuyuki City for a long time, and didn't return to Einsborn's villa until late at night. Although he only rested for a few hours in total, Yayu didn't feel very tired. Leaving the bedroom, Yayu went straight to the living room. On the bench in the living room, a girl with a golden side ponytail seemed to have been up all night, sitting there casually shaking her legs. Heroic spirits don't need sleep. Yayu couldn't help but wonder what the girl was doing in the huge courtyard in the dead of night. This villa belonging to Einsborn is really very similar to the girl's former home, the mansion. "Want something to eat?" Sitting down next to the girl, Yayu asked. "Heroic spirits don't need to eat?" Flandra turned around, looked at Yayu seriously and said. But soon the girl narrowed her eyes again and stared at Yayu's neck. "How should I put it?" Although Yayu felt that it would be strange to describe a girl with sexy eyes, Flandra's eyes at the moment gave him such a feeling. "If I must say it, vampires' food is of course blood. It would be best if the master could give people some to drink." "Blood? No problem, if Fran wants it," Yayu said nonchalantly. When treating Fran, he did not treat her like a master and a servant like a master and a servant. Instead, he treated Fran as his own daughter. Just sucking a little blood was not a problem. And looking at Flandra's expression, she seemed to be eager for blood. Yayu couldn't help but wonder, had the girl not sucked blood for a long time? This is indeed a possibility. After all, through that dream, Yayu knew something about Flandra. The girl seemed to have been imprisoned in that mansion for a long time. "Really, thank you, master." Flandra just spoke casually, and she didn't expect that Yayu would really agree to her. The girl narrowed her eyes happily and leaned towards Yayu, almost lying on Yayu's body. The girl's unique body fragrance wafted over, it was very similar to Ilya and Yaying. But what is completely different from the 2 young girls is that the fragrance exuded by Flandra's body has a more charming aura unique to mature women than the 2 of them. It was a temptation that was as deadly as poison that even Iris Veal couldn't compare to. After all, Iris Veal was only 1 year older than Ilya in terms of age, and although the girl in front of her had the body of a woman, she was a vampire who had lived for who knows how many years. While Yayu was thinking so wildly, he positioned himself so that the girl's body lay along his shoulders, so that his neck was just under the other person's lips. Smelling the fragrance hidden under the skin, the girl who couldn't bear it for a long time showed her cute little tiger teeth, and then bit down gently along the place where the blood vessel was. It felt like a sting from a needle, and soon I felt nothing at all. Fran lay on Yayu's body, sucking in small sips while making very comfortable sounds in her mouth, just like a kitten pampered by its owner. He patted Fran's back gently, fearing that she would choke because she sucked blood too fast. Seeing the girl's happy expression while sucking blood, Yayu couldn't help but smile warmly. But soon, a sudden change made Yayu become unnatural. It was as if the blood all over the body was boiling and burning. The palms holding the petite girl in his arms tightened involuntarily, and as he walked up and down, there was an inexplicable impulse rising in his heart. What's going on? Feeling the same desire rising in his heart, Yayu was a little confused and a little panicked. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 128. Although Yayu knows something about vampires, he doesn't know much. If he knew a little more, Yayu would understand what the strange feeling in his heart is now. That is a state called vampirism, which usually affects both the vampire and the person being sucked. For vampires, sucking blood can bring unparalleled happiness, and at the same time, this happiness and impulse can be transmitted to the person being sucked. For example, the current Yayu is affected by Flandra's blood-sucking impulse. If it were not suppressed by his power, his current state would be even more unbearable. On the other side, Flandra had begun to pant slightly, and the calf resting on Yayu's body was stirring unbearably. Woo, so hot, so uncomfortable, but so delicious. Fran wants more. Woo woo, cough, 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 the little vampire said incoherently, and then was decisively beaten. I choked on the blood. Really, be careful, he patted Fran's back gently, looking at her pretty face that temporarily left his neck because she was choked. At this moment, the little vampire's bright red eyes are full of pride, and her tender lips are stained with blood. The girl, who was obviously emotionally moved, gasped, and then pressed Yayu's lips in confusion. Yayu was stunned by the girl's sudden attack. He didn't know what to do for a moment, so he just sat there dully, letting Flandra absorb it. However, the feeling of enjoyment did not last long. Yayu felt a tingling sensation on his lips, which completely woke him up from the state of confusion and infatuation. It seems like I was bitten again. Is this girl really planning to eat me? Yayu thought with some humor and helplessness. Now let Fran calm down first. It would be a very easy thing to use his power. Thinking of this, Flandra, who was greedily sucking Yayu's blood, trembled for a while, and then left Yayu's body with some trembling. How are you? Have you woken up? Looking at the girl's cute reaction with some amusement, Yayu asked. Master, it's so annoying, when I'm clearly feeling comfortable. Flandra curled her lips in displeasure. The feeling of being forcibly calmed down from a strong impulse was actually not very pleasant. If you continue to suck me, I will be sucked dry by you. Please be considerate of your master. I am just an ordinary human being. Yayu shook his head in amusement, wiped his lips, and stood up with some frivolous steps. Although Fran's sucking time was not too long, it was really fierce and the burden on Yayu's body was still a bit heavy. I'm sorry, master. As if realizing that she had indeed gone too far, Fran stuck out her tongue cutely, wiped the corners of her mouth, and stood up with Yayu. But the master's blood tastes really good. Fran feels so excited now. The morning full of pink atmosphere passed like this. Not long after Irisville woke up, the maid in the castle brought such news to Yayu. As the supervisor of this Holy Grail war, the Holy Church asked Yayu to collect the command spell he obtained by defeating the servant who violated the rules. Hey, the Holy Church actually got the news so quickly. Iris was slightly surprised. They only defeated the real caster last night. Logically speaking, it would take a long time for the supervisor to know the news, right? It's not surprising. As a supervisor, there are still some small tricks like placing some eyes around us contestants. Yeah, you said with a chuckle. He was a little unsure at first, but after receiving the news from the Holy Church today, he was 100% sure that there was something around them. Although he has not successfully sneaked into the Einsborn barrier, he must have followed them quietly when they went out. In theory, there should be no one who can do all this perfectly, except Assassin, who has been eliminated. Assassin, who has breath blocking, can perfectly complete the task of tracking and investigation, and does not have to worry about being noticed by Yayu and Flandra. But Assassin should have already exited. In front of all the masters and servants, Assassin made a rather ridiculous exit. It was precisely because of this rather ridiculous exit that Yayu doubted whether Assassin had really exited. Could this all be a scam? I heard that Assassin's master went to the Holy Church to seek refuge that night after Assassin left the show. By some coincidence, Assassin's master Koto Mine Kaire happened to be the son of Koto Mine Ramesa, the presiding priest of the Holy Church in Fuyuki City. The servant who caused Assassin to retire was Archer, and Archer's master Toki Tozaka was Koto Mine Kaire's teacher. Although it is said that Koto Mine Kaire broke up with Toki Tatsu Tozaka because he obtained the command seal before the Holy Grail War began, this series of relationships will inevitably make people smell some conspiracy. If there is really something fishy in this, I'm afraid it's a trick played by Toki and the Holy Church. The plan to punish illegal servants and reward command spells was originally planned to be rewarded to Toki. However, what they didn't expect was that they would meet Caster by chance when returning at night, and directly ask him to leave the show, completely disrupting their plan. I guess both the Holy Church and Toki Tozaka are very angry now, right? Especially Toki, who has lost a command seal, must be eager to get this command seal, right? But I don't know what the Templar Church meant by informing me in the past. Will this command seal really be given to me so cheaply, or is there some trap waiting for me? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 129. Although Yayu had some doubts in his heart, he knew that the Holy Church would not do anything in public. The command seal should be given to him. Even if the Holy Church really colluded with Toki, it would not persecute him so blatantly. Invite yourself over, hand the command spell to yourself, and then test your attitude by the way. I'm afraid this is the purpose of the Holy Church, right? By the way, take a look at the breakthrough point on your side. Yeah, you thought so and looked at Iris beside him. Although I don't want to admit it, I have to say that the existence of Iris is Yayu's biggest breakthrough. In the days to come, she is likely to become the #1 target of many masters. If there is an opponent that can reassure Yayu, it may be Ryder. Anyone other than that may suddenly launch an attack on Iris. What's wrong, Yayu? Feeling that her husband's eyes and attitude had become a little strange, Iris asked curiously, and the latter chuckled and shook his head. I'm fine. Let's go to the Holy Church to get the rewards we won. Is it really okay to go directly like this? Are there any tricks on the part of the Holy Church? Don't worry, they are just people. The fact that the command spell is used as a reward is something that all masters know. Even if they want to do something, they can't do anything about it. Is it like this? Listening to what Yayu said, Iris also felt relieved. The girl nodded gently, and after eating breakfast, she and Yayu set out to leave Einsborn's villa. Although Flandra didn't like to be active during the day, for the safety of Yayu and Iris she reluctantly followed her in spirit form. It was almost 10 o'clock in the morning when Yayu and Irisville arrived at the holy church. There was only a man dressed as a priest standing there in the empty church, and no one else could be seen. This priest Yayu is naturally no stranger. He was also a participant in this Holy Grail war, but it was a pity that he lost his qualifications on the first night. Assassin's master, Tozaka Tokasu's disciple, and the son of the supervisor of this Holy Grail war, Kotomine Kaire. At present, he should be seeking protection and staying in the holy church. As for whether there is something fishy in this, it is somewhat intriguing. Here you come, father is waiting for you in the chapel inside. Seeing Yayu walking in, Kotomine Kaire's expression didn't change at all. He spoke so calmly and immediately pointed out a way for Yayu. Nodding lightly at the other party, Yayu walked towards the room inside, where he met the supervisor of this Holy Grail war, Kotomine Ramesa. Both the nuns and the priests have left Fuiuki City to take refuge due to the Holy Grail war. Please forgive me for the poor reception. Kotomine Richhan spoke to Yayu very politely, and immediately invited the couple to sit down. Yayu also nodded politely, and immediately sat down with Irisville in front of Kotomine Richhan. Your servant should be coming with you, right? After all, she was the one who killed the berserker who violated the rules. As Kotomine Riko said this, he smiled gratefully. This pair of masters and servants who violated the rules really caused me too much trouble. Once the Holy Grail war is exposed to the world, I don't know how much commotion it will cause. Fortunately, Mr. Yayu and the servant destroyed it in time. So as the supervisor of this Holy Grail war, I would like to personally express my gratitude to her. Yayu knew very well what Kotomine Ramesa's purpose was, it was just to understand Flandra's strength. But since the other party brought it up in such a high-sounding way, indicating that he wanted to thank Flandra in person, it was hard for him to refuse. Flandra, who was listening to Kotomine Richhan's words, also frowned slightly, but she finally showed her figure and appeared in the chapel. Well, I'm here. If there's anything you want to thank me for, just say it as soon as possible. Flandra spoke lazily and sat down next to Yayu, dangling her legs in boredom. This is Miss Flandra, right? Thank you for eliminating the servants who violated the rules. On behalf of the entire people of Fuiuki City, I thank you. Stop using the polite words and hand over the command spell quickly. I still want to go back to sleep. Flandra said this lazily, and half of the girl's body was leaning on Yayu's shoulder. After all, Flandro is a vampire. It is daytime, and she is still in a church where vampires are natural enemies. It is strange that Flandro can be energetic. This subtle change in the girl was not hidden from Kotomine Ramesa's eyes. The priest's eyes moved in a circle, and he didn't know what he was thinking. But is Miss Flandra really caster? I don't know how you eliminated Berserker in a head-on battle. I'm really curious. Kotomine Riko was saying this with a smile, while Flandra raised her eyebrows slightly. If I wasn't caster, what else could I be? The corners of the girl's mouth were slightly raised, and she stared at Kotomine Ramesa with a strange smile, causing the latter to turn his head unnaturally. Yes, if Miss Flandra is not caster, what else can she be? Kotomine Rikau was mumbling as if to himself. The old man showed a flattering smile. He rolled up his sleeves and exposed his arms engraved with command spells. Let me give you the command spell first, Mr. Yayu. Not long after Yayu and Irisville entered, they walked out of the chapel. In the church hall, Kotomine Kaire was still standing there with his eyes closed, as if praying. Without disturbing the devout priest, Yayu and Irisville quietly left. It was not until the two disappeared at the door of the church that Kotomine Kaire raised his head and opened his eyes. On the other side, his father, Kotomine Ramesa, also walked out of the chapel. How about Kilai, this man named Yayu? Kotomine Kaire tilted his head, and a look of confusion appeared on the expressionless man's face, and then he spoke slowly. He makes me feel dangerous. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 130. Oh, is it in terms of strength? A man who is as good as a servant in frontal combat is indeed a very dangerous guy. Kodo Mine Rijhan nodded in agreement and said so. They saw clearly through Assassin's eyes the battle between Yeyu and the illegal servant who had withdrawn, and they had to admire Yeyu's strength, which surprised them. Kodo Mine Kaire looked at his father. Although this was a point, it was not all. The fear he said had a deeper meaning, but he did not explain it. Now it is basically certain that the servant who left the scene is the real caster, and the identity of this girl named Flandra is still open to question. If the servant who has retired is the real caster, then the only remaining identity is Berserker. But, although Berserker may not be completely crazy, this girl is too sober. How could there be such a sober Berserker? Kodo Mine Rijhan frowned slightly and said something incomprehensible. It is true that Berserker is not necessarily a completely crazy servant, but being sober to Flandra's level seems a bit abnormal. You can say that girl is any servant, but it doesn't make sense for Berserker. How could a girl like this be a Berserker? Until we can be sure, we can only treat her as a Berserker for the time being. Well, that's all we can do for the time being. Let's get this news out as soon as possible. If we continue to treat her as a caster who lacks frontal combat effectiveness, she may suffer a big loss. Listening to what his father said, Kodo Mine Kaire nodded and turned around to leave. But just before he left, Kodo Mine Rijhan called him again. Wait a minute, there is another crucial piece of information. The heroic spirit named Flandra is not a human being, or rather was not a human being before becoming a heroic spirit, but a race that does not like to be active during the day. As Riko Kodo Mine said this, he carefully recalled Flandra's every move not long ago. The girl's lazy posture reminded him of a very familiar race. Looking at her performance, she really wants to be a vampire. A vampire? If he is the king of heroes, he should have many powerful noble phantasms to deal with vampires, right? Kodo Mine Kaire said this and Kodo Mine Rise nodded vigorously. Yes, that's it. Even if the opponent is not a vampire, he must be some kind of nocturnal race. This type of noble phantasm may be miraculous in dealing with vampires. I understand, father, and I will explain this to teacher Shi. Well, let your servant continue to monitor him carefully. I feel that the number one enemy in this Holy Grail war is this foreign aid from Einsborn. No, there was another man besides him. Kodo Mine Kaire thought this in his heart, but he still obeyed his father verbally. The number one enemy in Kodo Mine Kaire's heart has always been Emi Yakiritsugu, the unpredictable magician killer, and even Yeyu is said to be inferior to him. Because Kodo Mine Kaire didn't know the reason why a guy like Emi Yakiritsugu pursued the Holy Grail. Looking in Yeyu's eyes, Kodo Mine Kaire can see the strong belief and the belief that he wants to protect something. He must love his wife very much, right? But Emi Yakiritsugu was different. In Emi Yakiritsugu's eyes, Kodo Mine Kaire could see nothing but the same endless emptiness as himself. What is your purpose in pursuing the Holy Grail, Emi Yakiritsugu? Surprisingly, I got it so easily, the additional command spell. When leaving the Holy Temple Church, Iris Veal muttered in disbelief. This additional command spell was so easy to obtain, so easy that it was hard for her to imagine. It's normal. As a supervisor regarding command spells, you will definitely not interfere. After all, there are so many people watching. I think their purpose this time is simply to find out the origin of Flandra. Is that so? Flandra's hidden identity has been exposed. Now it seems that we can no longer hide it. After all, the magic that the real caster performed before his death was seen by everyone, which eliminated the possibility that he might be a berserker. Although no one can yet determine Fran's true rank. but no one will treat her as a caster. Yayu sighed softly as he spoke. Flandreau's race should also be guessed. Vampires should not be unfamiliar creatures to him, the supervisor of the Holy Church. Has this all been guessed? It would be a bit dangerous if it were like this. Listening to what Yayu said, Iris Veil's face became a little ugly. If she knew that Flandreau's race was a vampire, it would be too easy to target her. I'm just preparing for the worst, but I guess it's about the same. Even if I'm not sure, I'm sure there will be suspicion. If the enemy servant happens to have a noble phantasm against vampires, they won't suffer any loss if they use it. Don't worry, Master, I'm not very afraid of weapons like that. Flandreau's nonchalant voice sounded from the other side. Now I am a heroic spirit, and my form of existence is that of the most perfect life form, so I don't have any of the weaknesses that vampires originally had. It's just a habit to feel sleepy during the day. And there is no such thing as being trapped. In the situation where the weapon is targeted, it is meaningless if a powerful weapon cannot hit the enemy. And if it is stabbed in the heart, no matter whether it is a weapon with restrained attributes or not, it will be eliminated immediately, right? Well, you're right, but it's better to be careful. Well, don't worry, Master, I won't let Scarlet's name be shamed on me. If that happens, Oni-sama will definitely be unhappy if she finds out about it, right? In response to Yayu's concern, Flandreau responded with laughter. The group left Fuyaki City and returned to the Einsborn villa in the suburbs.